Should you travel to Southeast Asia or Latin America? Many travelers, especially those considering a longer trip, are wondering which of the two destinations to choose. We're going to discuss 6 different aspects relevant for traveling in those regions, including safety and costs, so that you can make the decision that best suits your wishes and needs. And of course, we will share some personal experience as well. We have traveled 11 countries in Latin America for a total of around 10 months and 5 countries in Southeast Asia for a total of around half a year. Keep in mind that this is very far from having seen it all, and also we traveled as a couple, so your experience as a solo traveler or in a bigger group might be different. Let's start with health and safety, because I think this one is a big question mark for many people. Regarding health, you'll find good doctors and international hospitals in Southeast Asia as well as in Latin America, but might have a harder time finding someone, especially someone who speaks English, in rural areas. We went to doctors many times in Latin America and we were always able to find someone, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Both continents also come with a certain risk of tropical diseases like malaria, which overall is pretty low. Some of the most polluted cities are located in Southeast Asia, and the countries rank pretty high on the list of most polluted countries in the world as well. Especially the air pollution is very noticeable to us and is one of the big downsides about traveling in Asia. Apart from that, there is one illness that especially plagues travelers in South America, and that is altitude sickness. Basically, your body is not happy with the reduced amount of oxygen that it gets in higher altitudes, and this can bring a huge range of symptoms from headache to diarrhea to vomiting. Usually people adapt within a couple days, and it's less noticeable if you travel slow. That means taking a flight straight from sea level to 4,000 meters is not a good idea. Now, overall safety. Latin America is home to some countries that are actually classified as high-risk countries. Those are Mexico, Haiti, and Venezuela. The main concerns here are illegal drug businesses and organized crime through street gangs and drug cartels. There is also a hurricane season to consider. Apart from that, of course, there are muggings, theft, and all of the usual scams in many places across the continent. Keep in mind, though, that that varies greatly from region to region, even within one country. If you are concerned about safety in Latin America, the safest countries are Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Panama, and Costa Rica. In Southeast Asia, sadly, you can find one of the most dangerous countries in the entire world, and that is Myanmar. The country is in a civil war at the moment. Apart from that, Papua New Guinea is also classified as high risk due to their high crime rate. All the other countries rank pretty similarly, but there are a few areas that you should avoid, for example some border regions of Thailand due to terrorism. And of course, all types of scams and pickpocketing are happening here as well. So, which one is safer? If you judge the whole region and look at homicide rates, this one must go to Southeast Asia. Now that you just heard the facts, I wanted to share our own experiences as well. Traveling through Latin America, safety is very much a topic at all times, and people usually follow a set of rules to stay safe. You're not going out after dark, you're not wearing jewelry, you're not getting into crowds, you will not walk into empty streets. In general, if you are alone, you took a wrong turn and you need to leave ASAP. People have fences and guards, and they live in enclosed communities in many cities. Windows have bars. If you park your car, there will be a guard, and if you visit your friends, they will inform their guards before you arrive. Generally, there are quite a few cities in Latin America that you might want to avoid completely if you can. And obviously, that's not the situation everywhere, not in the middle of nowhere in Patagonia. However, it's a thing that'll most likely be part of your trip. And honestly, if you talk to people who have traveled Latin America for a longer amount of time, almost anyone has a story to tell, including us. I still miss that necklace. But is it as bad as people make it sound at home? No. Absolutely not. However, it's not comparable to Southeast Asia. People would never think twice about going out in the evening or walking around at night, going from one bar to the next. Usually, you're rarely ever worried about being robbed. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, just that people don't need to worry about it as much as soon as they leave the house. Let me tell you, we are in Bangkok right now and it is hot. And the issue isn't just that it is hot, obviously, but that it's also very humid. The high humidity makes it feel a lot worse, at least for me. The point I'm trying to make is, if you hate hot weather, Southeast Asia might not be for you. There is a couple places that you can visit that have cooler climates. The Cameron Highlands in Malaysia, for example, or the northern region of Vietnam. But generally, the heat is just a fact in this part of the world. Whereas in Latin America, the situation is very different. It can get really hot in some places as well, for example, in Brazil and basically any country in Central America. But the climate in the Andes Mountains is usually cold. And down in Patagonia, you will even want to pack a hat and a scarf any time of the year. If this sounds up your alley, South America it is. Personally, we loved it. Very broadly speaking, in Southeast Asia you will find lots of temples, and in Latin America it's Inca and Mayan ruins which attract the big crowds. Some top highlights in Southeast Asia would be the temples of Angkor, the beautiful temples and palaces in Thailand. Indonesia has some beautiful ones as well, especially in Bali. And if you want some dazzling city life, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore and Bangkok will surely satisfy that craving. There are also quite a few cool places if you want to hang out for a while with the backpacking or digital nomad crowd, Bali being a classic, but you could also go to Chiang Mai, Penang or Ho Chi Minh City. However, Latin America might be just as interesting. Machu Picchu is probably on anyone's bucket list, as are the Nazca Lines in Peru, but you might pay a visit to some Mayan ruins as well. Some interesting ones are in Copan in Honduras, Tikal in Guatemala, and of course Chichen Itza in Mexico. If you want chill vibes and pretty small towns, there are so many colonial cities both in the south and the north of the continent, and there's also quite a few amazing cities like Buenos Aires, Medellin or Rio de Janeiro. Do I even want to get into food? I don't know. Generally, very generally speaking, it's rice and tofu in Southeast Asia and potatoes or rice and beans in Latin America. Many people argue that Asia has the better food. We loved it in both places and don't really have a preference. In case you are wondering, if you are plant-based like us, you will be fine. We were told that it would be so hard to find vegan food in South America, and it is not. We never had to skip a single meal and often found really delicious stuff as well, including lots of cake. And don't even get me started on the alfajores topic. By the way, if you are finding this video helpful so far, we would really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you are interested in more travel content like this, hit the subscribe button as well. The beautiful nature was actually the #1 reason why we started our world trip in South America. There is just so much to see, but to name just a few of the really famous spots that you can look forward to. The Iguazu waterfalls are the biggest waterfalls on the planet. In Chile, you can visit the Atacama Desert, which is the driest place on Earth that is not a pole. There's also geysers to check out. Patagonia has many glaciers and hiking opportunities, but Torres del Paine National Park might be the most famous attraction. If you are into wildlife, Galapagos should be on your list for sure. Costa Rica also always delivers on that one, especially if you want to see a sloth. There's also quite the amount of volcanoes to choose from, but if you want to see lava, hiking up Acatenango is your best bet. And there is also, you know, the Amazon. So what about Southeast Asia? Let me tell you, there's also a lot to see when it comes to nature. You can see gigantic lizards in Komodo National Park in Indonesia or orangutans in Borneo. There's actually only 2 places left on Earth where you can see those animals, one being Borneo in Malaysia and the other one Sumatra in Indonesia. Another super famous spot is Halong Bay in Vietnam, where you can go on a boat trip. It's one of the 7 wonders of the natural world. And all over Asia, you will also find beautiful rice terraces, and of course there are some mountains and volcanoes to be conquered as well. Southeast Asia is also rightfully famous for the most beautiful beaches. You will find some really pretty ones in Thailand, the Philippines and Indonesia, or basically anywhere you go. And of course there are also great opportunities for water sports. Regarding adventure, honestly, you can fulfill your adrenaline dreams in any of those places. There's hiking, there's mountain biking, climbing, tubing, ziplining, snorkeling, diving, you name it. There is for sure a place on both continents where you will be able to do that. So I would only worry about it if you have a very specific hobby that can only be done in certain places, like windsurfing, which we have heard is especially good in Brazil, or, you know, ice climbing, which might be difficult in Southeast Asia. This depends highly on where you go, especially in Latin America. Countries like Chile, Argentina, and Costa Rica are pretty expensive, sometimes comparable to European prices, especially if you visit during high season. But others like Peru, Colombia, Bolivia, and Guatemala are actually very affordable and comparable to most countries in Southeast Asia, which, let's face it, is kind of cheap anywhere, except maybe in Singapore. If money is your one deciding factor and you really want to get the most off your dollar, go for Southeast Asia. Okay, not gonna lie, Southeast Asia is just convenient. There are so many flights. You can order your taxi and even food with Grab. English is widely spoken wherever there is tourism, and generally the whole tourism infrastructure is pretty good. And it's maybe a little bit more difficult in Latin America, but not that much. It's easy to reach most places by bus, and the quality of transport is usually good, depending on the country and options you choose, obviously. Do you or do you not need to speak Spanish? Honestly, no. I mean, people don't speak English, but if you want to do it without Spanish, just get a translator app and you will be fine. One other thing that I want to add here is the type of people you will meet while traveling. Maybe it's just our impression, but we met many more experienced and on average a little older travelers in South America compared to Southeast Asia, which seems very much the place for everyone's very first backpacking trip that might also highly feature partying and bar hopping, which is just not really a thing in South America. Well, you will need to make your own decision on where to go based on what is most important to you. Want to enjoy beach life and spend as little money as possible? Go to Southeast Asia. Do you love hiking glacial landscapes and hate hot weather? Choose South America. Love religious sites and Buddhism? Southeast Asia. Are you into ruins and colonial cities? Latin America. Are you very concerned about safety? Maybe choose Asia, especially if it's your first big trip. So, which one do we prefer? We don't even need to think about it, it's Latin America, or to be more specific, South America 100%. We just love the incredible nature, all of the hiking that we did, the culture and language. Also, we're not beach people and I hate the humidity and heat in Asia. If you're interested in traveling to Southeast Asia though, we are in Bangkok right now and I'm sure you will make your way to this city as well at some point. So you might want to check out this video where we tell you how to see all of the highlights in just one day.